right, so standing today, we're going to play a little bit with just the general feel of movement today. I wanted us to try to kind of get out of the world around us and a little bit more into how we feel like we're moving. I'm going to always give suggestions, that's the way I like to think of them. If you want to do something else, that's okay too. I'm going to try to cue where I feel the exercise coming from so that if you don't feel it, you can try to move into that space. Let's start with just a little bit of leaning right to left. You can bring your hands onto your hips. And I want us to get a real sinking sensation happening. Sinking sort of into the right hip, switching, sinking into the left hip. All the way down to our heels even. So how do I feel a little bit like I'm dropping down into my left heel, really sinking heel all the way from the big toe metatarsal. That to me turns on the back of my thigh real quickly, really suddenly, so like as though I'm really pushing down into the mat to lifting back up. Right? So just a little shift. Your stance can be as wide or as narrow as you want it, and you can sink as low or stay as high as you'd like. As I shift to the right, I'm going to hold here a beat, and I'm going to shift my weight forward ever so slightly, and then I'm going to shift my weight back ever so slightly. And I'm feeling sort of what the change is through the front of my body and through the back of my body. As I shift forward, I definitely feel it more into my quads. And as I shift back, I'm getting back into my hamstring glute just a little bit. Up through center, over to the left. Forward just a little bit, and back. Forward just a little bit, and back. Just kind of seeing what that feels like. Ooh. And back up. Do that once more on each leg. And back up. Back and forward. Just kind of exploring even your feet right now. What does that feel like? I'm going to bring my hands onto my thighs and I'm going to start to shift just a little bit more rhythm, a little bit more flow. I might use my hands down into my thighs a little bit as well, almost to kind of help me come back up. See if you can feel the flexion of your quad underneath your hand. You're going to push into it and come back up. Let's do 4. Just getting a little bit of movement going. 3, a little bit of pace. Warming up our legs. 2. Almost there, last one. And then all the way back up through center. Good. Let's circle our hips just a little bit. Whew. Kind of wiggle it out. Shake it out, a little Wednesday morning dance. All right, back through center. I'm going to turn towards my right first. My right foot is going to be forward, and my left foot's going to be back. You can be as wide as you want. You can adjust if you get halfway through this and you're like, I don't like this anymore, right? Also, don't go as wide as your mat. I would say I'm about hips width apart. And from this position, I'm going to bring my hands onto my ASIS points, and I'm going to feel where my pelvis is through this series. I'm going to be careful that I don't start to kind of turn it in different directions. In this position, I'm going to try to keep my left heel down, and I'm going to bend into that right knee. And I'm going to try to wake this up again, that back of my leg line, and press it straight. As I sink, here's that sinking sensation again, I'm feeling not just my right big toe metatarsal, but I'm going to try to feel as though I'm dropping down into my right heel as I stretch my left away and then press it back up. That might start to help wake up the inside of your leg line a little bit. I'm getting a wonderful opening sensation through the eye of my left hip crease. I'm also trying to kind of keep that left leg relatively parallel. I'm careful it's not turned out into an external rotation. Some of us might be much more comfortable in that external rotation, but if we play with the position of that leg, I want you to see if it changes your stretch just a little bit. Sinking, and then pushing that back straight. Let's hold here. Now this right leg is going to stay straight. We're going to bend that left knee. Just a little bit. Mine's not going to go very far. And straighten. Yep. Bend the left knee. I feel mine shaking just a little bit. I also feel a little bit like I'm trying to pull my right leg back ever so slightly. It helps me stay balanced. I feel like I'm trying to line my knee up with my hip and my shoulder So a little bit of gait training here, a little bit of working on that alignment through our hips and our pelvis. Pressing straight. Last one. Let's bend. I feel my quad shaking a little bit and press. Now from here, let's work the back of our leg line a little bit. Pull up through the ball of your foot and then drop that back down. Pull up through the back of your leg and then drop that back down. So just a little bit of up and down. Lift and lower. And lift, pulling up through the back of that heel and lower. Let's do once more like that. Lift. I'm trying to spread all 5 toes back there. Last one, we're going to stay lifted and we're going to hold. So a couple options here. You can bend just as deep as you'd like. I'm going to try to bring my left knee, keep it in line with my shoulder and lower, and then press back up. And I'm coming right back to that sinking sensation through my feet. I'm going to keep my gaze focused forward to help with my balance. So it's like I've picked a spot on the floor in front of me, and I'm just going to focus on looking at that. It's going to help me with my balance. I'm feeling a little bit like I could slide my legs together to pick myself up through my top. Let's do once more like that. Added challenge if you want, open your arms out to a T. Now if you want to have a wall nearby or something to place your hands on for a little bit of balance, that's great. My little pinky toe on my left foot is starting to come up. So I'm going to try to keep all 5 toes down. Last one like this. Added challenge still if you want, bring the hands behind your head. And as you go down, feel like your elbows are pulling you up. And then you lift tall up out of your legs, out of your hips. Last 2. Working on our balance, working on our legs. Do you feel that right heel sinking? Do you feel your left hip crease opening all the way up nice and tall? Stretch those arms up towards the ceiling and then circle. Woo, back through center, kind of shake it out. Woo, we switch to the other side. Now that left leg is forward and the right leg is back. And again, in this position, let's just kind of play with our stance. What feels most comfortable to you? Hands can come onto the hip. Find your drishti, find your focus, or we'll all be wobbling. And then you're going to bend that front leg and straighten. Bend and straighten. What I'm thinking about here again is the reach through my right heel and the sink through my left heel. I'm trying to get the back of my left leg fired up. So in order to press myself back straight, I'm pushing down into that left heel. Last one. Hold here. Left leg stays strong and straight. Start to bend your right knee and straighten. See how tight your right quad, right hip crease is over the left. Or maybe how tight your right heel, your right ankle, shin, your calf, all of that is opening for me. I'm trying to keep my knee in line with my hip, in line with my shoulder. Let's do 2 more like this. Last one. Hold. Now lift the heel high. Pull up and then soften. Can you sink into that left foot and feel a little bit like you're going to drag the foot back underneath you? See if that helps you stay balanced. Pulling up, I'm going to spread all 5 toes. And last one, up and soften. We're going to pull up towards the top and we're going to hold. Nice and lifted here. And then you're going to start to bend, find your range of motion, and press. I'm visualizing that my legs are in like 90-90. Feels a little different on this side for me. As I reach that right knee down, I am getting some restriction in my quad, like it's not letting go, to drop, and then press back up. Let's do 2 more like this. Woo. Soften and press back up. Long, straight legs each time. Last one. Can you keep that right little pinky toe down? Woo, hold at your top. If you want that added challenge, open your arms out. As you soften, and then press back up. And soften. A lot of balance work here. Can you feel your left glute turn on? Last one. Up at your top, hold. Maybe your hands come behind your head. Last 3 here. My feet are sliding just a little bit. I'm sweating. Lift it up. Strong, straight legs. Hug the muscle close to the bone. Last 2. Sink through that left heel. Let it drop deeper into the mat underneath you. Last 1. All the way up. Take that stretch up to the top. All the way. Woo, turn back through center. Beautiful work. Kind of wiggle it out if you need to. Shaking those legs. Let's go ahead and make our way to one end of the mat. Feet parallel. Sit bone distance apart. Little bend in the knees if that feels okay. We're going to work our way kind of into a roll down. So if at any point, if you don't want to come down onto your knees, you can always sit down onto your bottom as we make our way down. Circle those arms up. Take a big stretch. Now exhale, I like to hook my thumbs and lift up out of my abdominals and start to pour myself forward towards the floor. Give a soft bend to your knees here. Feel a little bit like you're curling into a tight ball. Then start to press your legs straight. Lift the layers of abdominals. Let your head, neck, and chest go as you stack your spine back up. Keep pulling the front of your body in and up. And then inhale. Hook your fingers the other way. Lift up and over. Grow long through your spine. Lift up out of your hips, out of your knees, out of your ankles, and soften. And then bend and stretch. Now, if it's available to you, we're going to try to stay reaching towards the floor with our hands. So I'm going to try to keep my left hand planted down onto the floor. I'm going to bend through my knees so that I'm staying down through my left hand. And I'm going to start to spiral open towards the right, straightening just my right leg. Woo, there's my hamstring stretch again. Open and then soften. That right hand comes down and that left hand lifts. Stretch. And then soften. So each time I'm bending kind of deeper into my hips and my knees, and then I'm pulling myself up and out of it. As though I'm lifting through the arm up towards the ceiling, soften. Let's do that just once more. Play with that. Lift, lift, lift your abdominals. Lift your arms, let the line of your chest open. And soften, big stretch. Last one. Keep your tailbone turning down. Lift the layers of abdominals. And soften all the way down. Walk your fingertips forward. This is where we're going to get a nice big sink into our hips and our knees, if that's available to you. So I'm thinking a little bit that my hips are heavy behind me. I might get a little stretch through my heels, which kind of feels good too. And then slowly, shift your weight forward. Come to kneeling. If you want to double up on your mat, that's just fine. If you want the foam roller under your knees, or I should say shins, that's fine too. Hands stay underneath you. Let's move just to kind of continue to release the hips. I'm going to go right to left first. Let's see how that feels. Sort of like a typewriter. Like I'm shifting my ribs and my hips kind of in 2 different directions. Hear that little ching, and then and then ching, back and forth. I used to love playing with typewriters as a kid. Shifting over to one side, then shift your weight back and circle it over to the other side. Start to make a big circle through space, if that feels good. So I'm going to explore all my edges, sort of pushing my body over to one side. Last one this way. And I'm going to start to feel how big can I make it up at the top, and then shifting the other way. And I feel the back of my legs, the side of my body, the shoulders, the heart, everything is working here. And last one. All the way back up through center. Now find a position that you can hold, right? So we found all of the edges. Now hold on to a strong straight line through your body and stay connected there. Relax those shoulders back and down. Lift through the layers of abdominals. Lengthen through the top of your head. From here, let's flex through our feet and really think a little bit all 10 toes, right? How are you pushing those feet down into the mat? Reaching the heels as though you're going to drop them towards the floor behind you. Lift up through the abdominals and then soften. Exhale, lift. And soften. So, remember that kind of sink sensation that we found earlier? As though we were sinking our heels down into the mat and our hips back, right? So here again, I want you to think back. How am I sort of pulling my femur bones back? 3, and soften. Almost there. 2, and soften. Almost there. Last one, and soften everything back down. Lift the layers of abdominals. Keep the hands where they're at, but start to scoop and shift your weight back. If you can, if that's okay for your knees, you're going to start to think about dropping your hips towards your heels. Maybe you can sit on them. Start to lift the layers of abdominals and think tailbone, lumbar, then maybe your 12th rib, then your shoulders, then your neck, and then your head. All the way back up. Carefully shift off to one side. We're going to move into a little bit of some foam roller release work. So grab onto your foam roller. We're going to start on that right side again. So this one might be a little funny to get to. I'll show you with the foam roller. You can always take it out and leave it. User's choice. That right leg is going to stretch over your foam roller, and your foam roller is going to walk its way deep into the base of your pelvis. So I want you to think for your right sit bone, and then sort of, you're not quite sitting on the foam roller, you're draped around it. That left hand is like a kickstand, and you're just kind of hanging out here. So we're gently going to apply pressure to sort of like the hammock that is the back of those hamstring adductor muscles. Right hand is going to come onto your thigh, and we're going to use that right hand to sort of feel where is our leg in space, right? So like it's going to gently coax the right leg forward. You're going to start to turn and think now that you're sinking more of the adductor or the inside of your right hip crease into that foam roller. And then like that right hand is going to help pull the hip back. So just a little rocking. Now, if you are really tight in the back of your thighs, or maybe even in your hips in general, maybe that foam roller pushes you up too high. Maybe you're like, I'm falling over to the left. And that's okay. You can take it out. You could do the same thing without the foam roller. It's just a little bit of a prop to kind of explore the movement just a little differently. Let's start to add the right foot. So from here, I want you to think that you're going to circle, point through the foot as you turn inward, and then flex and draw it back. Circle. So I'm visualizing now almost like my leg is like a spoon in a soup bowl or something, and I'm kind of stirring the soup. I'm starting to turn, kind of spiraling that spoon. Last 2. Shifting that weight into the leg. Last one, into the base of the pelvis, into that foam roller, and soften. Carefully remove the foam roller, placing it just out of the way for now. Don't worry, we have the other side to do. And now I want you to try to sit and feel sort of like you've dropped, sunk, right? That sinking sensation into the right sit bone, right base of your pelvis. Left leg can be comfortable wherever it works for you. Right arm, I'm going to start to thread underneath my right leg. And I'm just going to start to reach up and over. So now I really feel like a dropped sensation into the side of my right leg, right pelvis, right sit bone. If it's available to you, maybe grab onto your left wrist with your right hand, just a gentle pull. And from here, I want you to think that you're going to inhale to turn up, and exhale, curl, and look down. Inhale. Start to add just a little bit of pelvic tilt too. Exhale, scoop. And inhale. And exhale, scoop. Let's do that once more, all right? I'm feeling the way that I'm rocking on my sit bones. And exhale. And carefully bring it all the way back up. Ooh, little release. We're going to stay on our right side real quick for a little bit of a side series. From here, connect your legs tight together and come down onto your right elbow. All right? So in this position, what I want you to think of a little bit, you know, if you've taken my classes, I don't treat both sides the same, right? So I want you to think on this side, you're trying to open up the right side of your body. This is going to stay kind of stretched. This, we're going to shorten a little bit. So I want you to think that you're going to reach through your left arm, almost like you're trying to suction your left hip towards your shoulder or your left shoulder towards your left hip, so that this is nice and open. Now from this position, we are going to pivot on our knees and our elbow just a little bit. You're going to push down into your right elbow, lift through your right waist, and just stretch into a side plank, right? This isn't a side bend right now, we're just in a plank. This is a little bit of a bend. I want you to think that you're stretching towards that side of your mat, and then you're going to lift. And we're going to inhale as we soften, and I want you to think of inhaling into your right ribs, and exhale to lift. Inhale into your right ribs, and exhale to lift. And last two, inhale, and exhale to lift. Almost there, last one, take that big inhale, send the breath into your right ribs, and exhale, lift it up through center, and then soften everything back down. So kind of tuck that foam roller underneath you. Already my sides feel a little different. Maybe I'm a little tighter here because I feel like I'm leaning into my right arm quite a bit more. So just kind of find what works for you. Again, you can do the same series without the foam roller if you don't want to, right? So if it's like too big underneath your left leg, you can take it out. Left hand is going to come onto the thigh and help to turn your femur bone, internally rotating your thigh, and then pulling it back. I want a little bit more room there, so I'm going to shift my leg back just a little bit. And I'm just going to start to play with feeling sort of the band of muscles that run up the back of my leg, that feed into my pelvis, into my glutes. Turning, let that weight drop down into the foam roller underneath you. If you want, start to add the toe. Pointing as you turn, reaching through the leg, and then flexing as you come back. I feel kind of like I'm stirring a pot with my left femur bone. Kind of making circles, curling forward just a little bit, and back. Let's do that twice more. Sometimes our left hamstrings, all of our hamstrings are really tight, but sometimes our left hamstring tends to be just a little weaker, and we're overcompensating. We're really tight in our left hip flexors. So maybe that roll inward starts to feel really good, and maybe you kind of just hang out there for a minute and then pull back. Let's do that just once more. Sorry, I think I lost track of counting. And then back. From here, carefully come off of that foam roller, placing it out of the way. That left leg will straighten. And just start to sense, what does that feel like as I drop my weight into my left hip? Slide your left arm underneath. I like to kind of cradle the calf, try to open up the heart towards me, and lift up and over. Opening up kind of the base of your left side of your pelvis. If it's available to you, grab onto your wrist. Ooh, and just a gentle, ever so slightly, kind of tug towards the left. Let's add on with our curling. So you're going to exhale to turn down. Lift your waist, and then inhale. Try to reach up towards the ceiling. Ooh, exhale. Lift your waist. Inhale. Now, as I'm turning down, I'm trying to lift my waist so much that I'm getting a stretch from my 12th rib to the back of my right hip. Last one. And as I lift up, I'm trying to open up kind of the front of my ribs, start to stretch back up through center, and all the way back up. Swing your legs towards the right as we come to our side bend on the left. So knees are kind of in line with the pelvis, in line with the shoulders. We're going to push energy down into your left arm. Now on this side, I'd like just an extra added challenge that we're actually going to stay lifted the whole time. We're not going to relax. You can tap, touch the mat, but then pop back up again. Remember, because we're going to work on increasing our strength on the left and opening up to the right. Standing into that left elbow, reaching through your right arm, you're going to pivot and you're going to start to lift up through your waist. And I want you to think of a rainbow in your left waist. Pull up. Now, as you soften, think you're barely going to tap, and then you're going to lift straight back up again. Woo. So, a little bit of shoulder work here. Keep the scapula pulling towards your back pocket. Push energy down into that elbow. Think of your can-can. Think of your day at the beach. Lift up out of that shoulder. Last two. Make a rainbow with your waist. And soften. Almost there. Last one. Lift. Make a rainbow with your waist. And then soften everything back down. Whew. Carefully swing back through center. Carefully swing back through center. Again, we're going to move through some abdominal work. This time, we'll all slowly start to roll ourselves all the way back down. Woo. Kind of taking a big stretch. Woo, if that feels good. Opening that up. So give yourself plenty of room. Hands come down along beside you to start. Let's move through our bridge series. Feet firmly planted. I'm going to rock just a little right to left because I like to do this. I like to really feel sort of the back of my pelvis down onto the mat. So I'm not actually rocking my legs right to left. My legs are staying through center, and I'm rocking my pelvis. Trying to feel a little bit like the back of my pelvis is trying to sink into the mat, right? There's that weighted sensation there. Hands can stay beside you. Relax, kind of find your neutral. Let's feel the back of our legs again. We're going to push down into the mat. Feel your hamstrings turn on one, right? So they are active. Here's your abdominals. Exhale, curl the wheel of your pelvis. Hold that. So we're lifting the front of our body, and we're lengthening the back of our body. Start to stand into your feet one vertebra at a time. Start to lift it up through center. Connect. And exhale, reach the shins, the quads, away from you as you lower one vertebra at a time. Try to keep your legs parallel. Let's do that 3 more times. Inhale, exhale, curl and lift. Stacking it up. Wrap those shoulders back and down. And then exhale, lower with control. And think that the eyes of your hip crease are still very open. And you're articulating through your back. Curling it up, one vertebra at a time. Reconnect with your top. I feel my left hamstring again. And lengthen and lower. I'm getting a different stretch through the front of my quads too, right? Kind of in that standing series, we found that the right and the left leg feel different. So same thing in our bridge, the right and the left feel a little different. Hold at your top, and then go ahead and reach your arms up and back. We're going to typewriter again. And we're going to play with sort of releasing any kind of kinks in our spine. So I want you to think you're going to start to shift your ribs right and left, right and left, right and left. Now start to lower as you shift. Right and left, right and left. Woo. Keep your arms reaching towards the wall behind you. Oh, try to get still one vertebra at a time as you typewriter. Ooh, I kind of get to a sticking point there before my low back, and I can't seem to shift that much more. And then release. Let's do that again, once more time. Exhale, curl the wheel of your pelvis. Stand into your feet. Lift the layers of abdominals. Holding at the top, take your inhale. And start to typewriter. Shifting your ribs. Shifting kind of right and left. Keep reaching through your fingertips. Opening your quads. I feel my hamstrings are still working. My legs I'm trying to keep parallel. Ooh, just a little bit of shift at the very bottom, and then release. And let it all go. Open your arms, circling them down and around, coming back beside you. We're going to move through a little bit of leg work before we move into our abdominal series. So pushing down into the mat, start to curl the wheel of your pelvis, lifting up through your hips. Find the position you can hold. Push down through your left foot and lengthen your right leg long. Now make this move as big or as small as you want it. You're going to point, reach, flex, and lower. Point, reach, flex, and lower. Point, reach, flex, and lower. Do you feel your left hamstring? Sink that heel down. Lift your left waist up. Last one. And reach, bend it back into tabletop, place the foot back down. Reconnect with your center, and then reach your right leg long. point, kick it up, flex, and point, up, flex, and do you have more range of motion after releasing the back of your hip? And last one. Bend back to tabletop, place it back down, reconnect with your center, and soften one vertebra at a time. And feel like the back is long, all the way to the very end, when you let it go. Open those arms to a T. You can rock right to left. Kind of taking that breathing, that stretching. Little release. Carefully roll over towards your left side. Push yourself up through center, hugging your legs towards you. Let's take a little stretch to the other side. Maybe it feels good to kind of circle that shoulder if that grew a little tight. Kind of see just what feels good. Opening up kind of the shoulder. And all the way back up. Swing your legs to the other side. Hugging the knees into your chest and stretch. Up and over. Again, you can kind of move through that shoulder, see what feels good. If that got a little tight, if you were in your kind of stretching, opening that up. And soften. We're going to flip now to lying prone on the mat. Legs long behind us. Hands are going to come beside us. Try to relax those shoulders back and down. Those hands are going to float off the mat. And now we're going to add a little thoracic extension. So what I want you to do is start to look up first. Think your chin lifts. Then think your neck lifts. Then think the line of your chest lifts. And that's it. That's all I can do. And that's okay. And then soften the sternum. Think long towards the wall in front of you. And bring yourself back through center. And last one. Lengthen through the spine. Think the top of your head is pulling you forward. Then you start to curl up. Hold here. Hands come down. Now this is our triceps. Think that you're going to push from underneath your shoulders down into the mat and start to pick yourself up just a little bit more. Find a nice big stretch. Just see where you're at today. Keep the shoulders out of your ears, and as you lower, think one vertebra at a time. Find your control. Think of your bridge. When you have that position that you can float the hands off, do so. And then lower with control. Because sometimes I think slower is harder. Really feeling the upper back work, then the hands come down. Then think a little bit, you're going to scoot that mat away from you. Lifting with control, one vertebra at a time. Beautiful stretch. I'm still going. And then, with control, one vertebra at a time. And soften and release. If it's available to you, you'll bend at the knees. Tuck your legs tight together and start to shift your weight back. And again, you can think of sitting back towards your heels, lifting the layers of abdominals, and opening the length of your spine. Let's take just a moment here to breathe. Now exhale, lift your stomach, drag your hands across the mat, and start to press your spine back. And think that you're going to drop your tailbone down first. I'm squeezing my thighs, I feel my adductors. Then your lumbar, then your ribs. Don't move fast with this, guys. Let it feel slow. Can you get one vertebra at a time? All the way back up. Grow tall to the top of your head. Beautiful. Nice job. Thank you so much, everybody. That's class.